In the vast expanse of the Orion Arm, humanity was considered little more than a curiosity. The Galactic Coalition, a confederation of 17 advanced species, had categorized Earth as a Class 3 developing world, a polite way of saying humans weren't worth the diplomatic paperwork. Ambassador Jack Reynolds knew this better than most. Standing in the cavernous assembly hall on Proxima Station, he watched the coalition representatives debate humanity's petition for the 15th time. Towering Vanda delegates with their crystalline exoskeletons conversed with the gaseous Miran entities, while the six-limbed Taurians pointedly ignored the human delegation. "They're not even pretending to consider our proposal," whispered Diane Mitchell, Jack's deputy. The coalition was voting to authorize mining operations in the asteroid belt, Earth's asteroid belt, without human consent. Jack adjusted his collar, the standard-issue EVA suit feeling particularly restrictive today. "They think we're primitive. Harmless." His eyes followed High Chancellor Vexer, the Vandar leader whose company had already begun preliminary surveying. "Perhaps we are," Diane sighed. "What's our military presence compared to even the smallest coalition member?" Jack remained silent. 20 years as a diplomat, and he still couldn't quite explain humanity to aliens. How could he make them understand that humans didn't measure strength the way other species did? The Assembly's vote was unanimous. Mining would begin in 30 standard days. Earth's objections were noted and dismissed in the same breath. 2 weeks later, the coalition survey vessel Abundant Harvest reported unusual readings from Earth's moon. Before a proper investigation could be mounted, an explosion tore through the Vandar embassy on Mars colony. No casualties. The building had been empty, but the message was clear. High Chancellor Vexer immediately dispatched a battle group to Sol System. "Humans understand only force," he announced to the Assembly. "We shall educate them appropriately." The first coalition warship entered Earth orbit 18 hours later. Ambassador Reynolds was summoned to Proxima Station, where the full council awaited. "Explain your species' provocations," demanded Vexer, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. Jack stood alone before the Assembly. "With respect, Chancellor, we've launched no attacks." "Lies!" The Vandar's voice reverberated through the chamber. "Your primitive weapons signature was detected. Now you will surrender those responsible or face extinction." Jack studied the faces of each council member. None showed sympathy. In their eyes, humans were barely sentient, certainly not worth starting an interspecies incident over. "Chancellor," Jack said quietly, "I strongly urge you to reconsider your mining operations." Vex's laughter was like breaking glass. "You urge? A Class 3 species urges the coalition?" The chamber filled with derisive clicks and whistles from the assembled delegates. Jack nodded slowly. "I'm simply suggesting that there may be aspects of humanity you've failed to consider in your assessment." "Is that a threat, Ambassador?" Vexer leaned forward. "No," Jack replied, "just history." As Jack left the chamber, his communicator vibrated. A message from Earth Command. "Operation Twilight authorized. Awaiting your signal." Jack didn't respond immediately. Humans had learned patience over centuries of fighting each other. The coalition thought humans weak because they'd never seen Earth's darker history. The ingenious, terrible ways humans had devised to destroy one another before finally finding peace. Jack tucked the communicator away. The coalition would learn soon enough. Not today, but the coalition blockade tightened around Earth like a noose. 12 warships, each capable of rendering a continent uninhabitable, maintained geosynchronous positions over major population centers. Smaller vessels intercepted and impounded all human ships attempting to leave the system. In his makeshift office, aboard the International Space Station, Jack Reynolds watched Earth rotate below, the blue marble now shadowed by alien hulls. "They're making their point," he muttered to General Scott Davidson, who floated beside him. "And their point is that we're screwed," the general replied, his weathered face grim. "Our conventional defenses are like throwing rocks at tanks." Earth's response had been predictable, and predictably futile. Missile launches were intercepted before leaving the atmosphere. EMP weapons proved useless against coalition shielding. The UN Security Council had authorized nuclear options, but everyone knew the result would only be Earth's faster destruction. "What about the Mars colony?" Jack asked. Davidson's expression darkened. "Gone. The Vandar gave them 2 hours to evacuate. Most made it out." "Most?" 217 casualties. Families who didn't reach shuttles in time. Jack closed his eyes. Children. There would have been children. His secure tablet chirped. Another message from President Taylor. Diplomatic options exhausted. Twilight Protocol active. Confirmation required. Jack looked at Davidson. Twilight might not work, and even if it does, the cost will be high, Davidson finished. But doing nothing guarantees extinction. Jack authorized the protocol with his thumbprint. He didn't feel the relief he'd expected, only a hollow dread. 3 days later, the first coalition mining vessels arrived, escorted by additional warships. Without ceremony, they began operations in the asteroid belt, processing facilities converting resource-rich rocks into raw materials. High Chancellor Vexer himself led a delegation to Earth, landing at the UN headquarters in New York. Security forces surrounded the building not to protect Earth's leaders from Vexer, but to protect Vexer from increasingly desperate human protesters. Vexer's terms were simple. Earth would become a protectorate of the coalition. Humans would retain limited self-governance under Vanda's supervision. Resistance would be met with immediate planetary bombardment. You mistake our restraint for weakness, Jack told Vexer during the closed-door session. Humans have lived through worse than you. Peace. Sura's crystalline face was unreadable. No species has survived coalition discipline. Your bravado is noted, Ambassador, but irrelevant. That night, Operation Twilight went active. Not with explosions or conventional attacks, but with silence. Throughout coalition vessels, systems began failing in seemingly random patterns. Navigation errors, life support fluctuations, communication disruption. Coalition technicians identified the cause almost immediately: nanoscale infiltration units. Somehow humans had developed and deployed microscopic sabotage devices throughout the coalition fleet. The Vandar response was swift and terrible. 3 major cities, Mumbai, Lagos and Sydney, vanished in blinding flashes of energy bombardment. 60 million lives erased in seconds. Jack watched the destruction from the ISS, his heart breaking as the death toll mounted. The secure tablet in his hand displayed the status of Twilight: 37% penetration. Insufficient. They traced the nanite production facilities, Davidson reported, his voice hollow. They're systematically destroying our technology centers. And our people along with them? Jack whispered. Within 48 hours, Earth's infrastructure collapsed. The power grid failed. Communications went dark. Coalition vessels reported success in neutralizing the human threat. In his final official act as ambassador to the coalition, Jack transmitted a message to all Earth government remnants. Twilight failed. Activate Lazarus Protocol. The message never reached its destination. A Vandar strike destroyed the International Space Station, killing everyone aboard. The last images from the station showed Jack Reynolds staring defiantly at the approaching energy. Vexer addressed the coalition assembly triumphantly. The human problem is resolved. Their resistance was more sophisticated than anticipated, but ultimately futile. Mining operations can proceed without interference. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility unknown even to most human governments, Major Thomas Wright received the automated Lazarus activation code. Around him, 500 of Earth's brightest minds, scientists, engineers, military specialists, waited in a bunker designed to survive planetary bombardment. Thomas studied the holographic display showing coalition vessels in orbit, his face illuminated by the blue glow. Jack bought us the time we needed, he said quietly. How long until we're ready? Dr. Sarah Morgan, head of xenobiology, checked her readings. The prototypes are viable. We need 48 hours for full maturation. Thomas nodded, his expression revealing nothing of the horror he felt at what they were about to unleash. Earth is dying up there. We don't have 48 hours. Then we'll do it in 24. Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the tears tracking down her cheeks. It won't be stable, but it will work. For the first time in weeks, Thomas felt something like hope, though what they planned was so desperate, so potentially catastrophic, that hope seemed almost inappropriate. Lazarus rises, he whispered. I, Chancellor Vexer, presided over the formal annexation of Sol System from the command deck of his flagship. Earth, once blue and vibrant, now bore the grey-black scars of coalition discipline. Analysts estimated human survivors at fewer than 1 billion, mostly in rural areas, untouched by the targeted strikes. Prepare the processing ships, Vexer ordered. Begin with the largest remaining population centers. His second-in-command hesitated. Chancellor, biological scans are showing anomalies. Explain. Radiation patterns don't match our bombardment signatures, and there's unusual cellular activity among human survivors. Vexer dismissed the concern with a crystalline flicker. Their biology is responding to trauma, proceed as ordered. But within 12 hours, Coalition ground forces reported strange encounters. Humans who should have been cowed were fighting back and winning, not with technology, but with their bodies. Soldiers described humans moving with impossible speed, shrugging off energy weapons, demonstrating strength that defied physical laws. Impossible, Vexer hissed as he watched footage of a human female lifting a Coalition tank and hurling it aside. They were nothing. We assessed them thoroughly. The truth dawned slowly, horribly. Humans had engineered a biological response to the invasion. The nanite infiltration had never been the true attack, it was a distraction. While the Coalition focused on technology, humans had weaponized their own evolution. Coalition scientists discovered the mechanism too late. The Lazarus Protocol had released engineered retroviruses that activated dormant human genetic potential, abilities locked away during their evolution. Every bombing, every attack, had only spread the activation particles further through the atmosphere. Earth's surviving population wasn't diminishing, it was transforming. Vexer ordered immediate withdrawal and quarantine of solar system, but his ships found themselves hunted by humans who no longer needed vessels to travel through space. Coalition crews reported humanoid figures moving through vacuum, tearing through hull plating with bare hands. In the assembly hall, panic spread as reports filtered in. Coalition members who had endorsed the Earth action now faced a terrifying question. Had the retrovirus spread beyond Sol? Were their own worlds already infected? A transmission interrupted the chaos, a single human face on the assembly's main screen. Major Thomas Wright, his eyes now with a subtle luminescence, addressed the Coalition directly. "You came to our home believing us weak because we chose peace," he said simply. That choice was never about inability. It was restraint. Silence filled the chamber. Humanity spent thousands of years perfecting war against itself before finding another way. We knew what we could become. Now, thanks to you, we remember. The implications stunned the assembly. Humans hadn't developed their terrifying abilities in response to the invasion. They had rediscovered what they once were, what they had deliberately locked away in their genetic code when they chose civilization over power. "The changes are permanent," Thomas continued. "We cannot return to what we were. The question now is what we will become, and whether there's room for coexistence." Vexer found his voice. "This is biological warfare, an atrocity." Thomas smiled sadly. "No, Chancellor, this is evolution. Prompted by necessity, guided by science, but evolution nonetheless. Your choices created this outcome as much as ours did." 1 year later, the Galactic Coalition was reformed under new principles, with humanity given full membership status. Earth began healing its wounds. Coalition mining operations continued in the asteroid belt, now with fair compensation to Earth. As humans spread throughout nearby systems, they brought with them a living reminder that appearances deceive, that strength comes in many forms, and that the most dangerous capability is the one that remains hidden until needed. Some species feared them, others sought alliance, but all remembered the lesson. Often, the most formidable adversary is the one who chooses peace, until peace is no longer an option.